What is up, everybody? It's Goomer22, and today we're going to be doing a team/season review of my VBA Season 3 team. Um, we This is the team here, and let's jump into it. So, general season highlights. So, we ended the regular season. Oh my gosh, I can't even speak. We ended the regular season at 8-2 plus 10. That was game differential. I had a Rillaboom Comfey team. I would say that was the kind of theme of the team to start it off. So very fun. We did lose in top 8 of playoffs to a very strong player, Dan Stout Gaming. He had a very, very anti Rillaboom team, which I guess I was bound to run into eventually. But it was really, really. My team was specifically weak to, I would say, strong ice types and strong poison types, which he had both. And although I had Comfey who had increased priority, I didn't have Prankster. And I really, really enjoy having Prankster on the draft team. So, but I'm trying to try more draft teams without Prankster to see how they work. But anyways, the format was no max, no legends. So really interesting in terms of the power balance, especially. So like I did enjoy the fact that no legends made it so that you get to try a little bit more mons out than you might not be able to. I think non-max allows for a lot of other mons as well to be used than would be in Dynamax. But it did seem like there was a big difference in power. Like being one of the top 5 picks or whatever, it felt like you could get like a really, really good bond, like Rillaboom or Indeedee Female. I'm sure there were others I was thinking of, but like there's only so many terrain setters without the Tapus. So I figured terrain would obviously be like a really, really strong feature to get. And then I just sort of themed the team around that very first pick, Rillaboom, since I had the first pick. Doubles, the two divisions were also really cool. So the way VBA worked was you had a Kanto division and a Johto division, and so I was in the Johto division, and both divisions had their own drafts, but then in playoffs they play each other. So I got the Rillaboom and Johto division. Somebody else had a Rillaboom and Kanto division, but when we go to playoffs, we might face each other. So you might face the same mon, which I think is kind of neat. And that way, like you really have you kind of really have the best of the best teams because you have 2 of the same tier lists, same drafts going on. But then let's say somebody grabs Rillaboom, and people are saying, "Oh wow, Rillaboom's busted. Rillaboom needs to it's too strong." Well, yeah, I guess you'll find that out when playoffs happen, and if both teams that make it to the end both have Rillaboom, okay, well then it's kind of an even fight then, even if you do think it was unfair because Rillaboom's so strong. But regardless, the the double division I think thing was cool, and then I think overall my team, I actually really really like my team. I would like, in terms of how I liked my team structure, especially after playing with it, I would give it like an 8.5 out of 10. Like I liked it. There was just a couple tweaks I really really wanted to make. It probably needed a little bit less power and more support. So I had a bunch of mons in like the 120 plus, like either attack or special attack stat, and usually that meant that they had lower defense stats. And so I wish I kind of had better defensive switch-ins, basically. And then I also had a little bit of an awkward speed tier issue a lot of the times in prep. I had a lot of probably one too many mons in the 50 to 60 speed tier, which can be awkward depending on your team. So I'm just gonna go through each mon, how they did, and talk about some tech I was wanting to use and whatnot. And yeah, so let's jump into it. We will start off with Rillaboom. So Rillaboom, obviously one of the best mons in the format. So extremely strong with its terrain uniqueness. Obviously fake outs and grassy glide, which I kind of found it hard not to run fake out and grassy glide every time. So there were a couple matches when I actually ran drum beating as speed control. Specifically, they would be against teams that had quick guard because if you run fake out and grassy glide on Rillaboom, two of your moves are already now priority. So if if a team is using quick guard, you basically can't do anything. You have to use one of your other moves, and so sometimes I would run drum beating against teams that seemed like quick guard was pretty obvious. But drum beating is also nice for speed control too. It was kind of cool. One time I ran scarf, and it was It might not have been the play, but it was interesting. But yeah, it did feel like it running fake out and glides sort of made it predictable and boring. Because I would want to run other stuff, right? I would want to run Woodhammer. I would want to run. So what would happen is I would run fake out glide, and then I might run like a tech move and bulk up, or I might run sword stance, or I might run two more tech moves and AV. But generally, yeah, fake out and glide just seems so safe. Knockoff pretty much hits everything for neutral, and it's just always really good support. High horsepower covers for the fires and poison types. So really, just Rillaboom. The one thing about Rillaboom though is like it does get hard walled by flying types. Like you can do knockoff, but you really can't do much else to flying types. So, but in general, I really haven't done too much terrain drafting, and so access to Grassy Seed was really helpful on certain mons like Comfey and Slowking Galar and Magmortar. Comfey was nice because you don't have a way to boost your defense. And then Slowking Galar, it naturally just has lower defense and special defense, just makes it ultra bulky. Magmortar has super low defense and decent special defense, but that made it at least a little bit more bulkier, so that was cool. And in general, with Rillaboom, the grassy terrain was kind of meant to synergize with Comfey. You obviously have boosted floral healing, just slightly, but you have boosted floral healing, and you could also maybe reduce Earthquake for the Magmortar and Magnazone. However, there was some anti-synergy with Glurk wanting to... I wanted to run Rillaboom and Glurk in the same team, but then it made it awkward to bring them both to the same match. I probably could have and just tried to play around it, but it was just awkward because I would want to run EQ on Glurk, but also, if I do that, people can take advantage of Rillaboom's grassy terrain. So I had to be conscious of that because they can use grassy glide against my Glurk or my Klotz or something like that. So that was also something to be wary of. But overall, Rillaboom was really fun. I wanted to get really creative with the sets, but it was a hard balance of, am I just doing this just to be different than what I've been doing? Or am I actually using a different set because it's actually good? And so I tried to try different sets to sort of test that. And in my, I guess, experience, Grassy Glide was pretty much always better to run than something else like Drum Beating or whatnot. The speed just helps a lot. Because it's really nice to not, especially with those priority moves, to not have to run a bunch of speed investment. You're like, okay, well, I have priority. I'm just going to run bulk and bulk my EVs. So that was really nice. But yeah, Rillaboom, obviously really good. Sort of linear, but you can do some stuff with it. So, obviously you have a little bit more flexibility in what you run. But yeah, it was really tempting to not run AV every single time because you're running fake out, you're running glide. Then you're like, oh, well, I want high horsepower to cover for poisons and fires. I get one more move. What do I run? Oh, protect. Maybe I want knockoff for just general support. Okay, I have 4 attacking moves. I'll just throw an AV on it. And I feel like that's how it usually goes. So, and anyways, next mon was Comfey. Comfey, I was super, super excited for. I feel like it's a little bit slept on. Like obviously people I think it's good, but like in this format, especially without legends and the extra power there, like I feel like Comfey was so so strong. The +3 priority from triage is so nice. Like you outspeed a lot of fighting fake out mons. You know, Hitmontop, Hitmonchan, Hitmonlee, um, and you can Draining Kiss before they fake out, which is so nice. Or you know, Floral Healing or Giga Drain, whatever you want to do. There was a couple times Comfey became an end game win con because you have Synthesis and Calm Mind, so you can boost your special defense. And then you can heal up. You can also heal up with Draining Kiss instead of Synthesis if you want to do it that way. But you can also run Grassy Seed to become bulky defensively because you really don't have any other way to bulk defensively. So you could just run max HP, max defense, and then run Grassy Seed and Calm Mind and start Calm Minding, and then you become pretty bulky. Obviously, great support and synergy with Rillaboom. It's just kind of hard countered by the poisons, fires, and flying types. Like, I mean, yeah, Rillaboom does get high horsepower, but if they're faster or if they just run Shuka or if they're just decently bulky defensively, like it's not going to KO. And so, yeah, that is one big issue. You know, obviously, Comfey is like a little bit limited in its move pool, Draining Kiss and Giga Drain. But it was just kind of fun to play around with these different random sets. Comfey gets a lot of good support tools like Taunt. It gets Trick Room, which I did use, and like with its priority, it doesn't matter about its high base speed for Trick Room. I didn't really use Floral Healing as much as I thought I would, to be honest. And yeah, I mean, it is nice in Grassy Terrain. Like you're getting the extra boosted. You're getting 2/3 of your health healed rather than 1/2, but like that's only 17% more health, which is decent, but it's not like a game changer per se that you need to have a Grassy Terrain user with Comfey. But I do think it's really nice to have a good fire type, potentially a good grass type, potentially a good physical grass type because of its other ability, Flower Veil. I really, really wanted to use Flower Veil effectively some game, but I just never found the right matchup for it. And I don't know if people might not know this because they might see Comfey and say, oh, okay, Comfey triage, it's just doing triage stuff. But Comfey has another super, super good unique ability, and that is Flower Veil. And ally grass types are protected from status conditions and the lowering of their stats. So you throw in Comfey next to Rillaboom, and like you're still fast, you know, with Comfey, you still have 100 base speed, so you can still do stuff like Draining Kiss and whatnot, and Synthesis and whatever, Floral Healing. But Rillaboom can't be intimidated, can't be burned, especially by a Prankster mon too, which is nice. They can't be Prankster Charmed, can't be Prankster Will-O-Wisped, like, or if they're just faster. So I really wanted a situation where that looked better than triage, and it looked good in just the matchup generally. But unfortunately, I never found a situation. Well, I did actually use it one time, but it didn't come into play really. But yeah, I really wanted to have a matchup where that looked good. But you don't have to do it with Rillaboom. Rillaboom just has Grassy Terrain and Grassy Glide, so obviously it's super, super nice. But like you can do it with other physical grass types or special grass types even, I guess. But most likely the conditions that you're going to be worried about are burn and then intimidate. So that's why just more likely with a physical grass type like Rillaboom. So unfortunate, but Comfey, super strong. Loved using it. Okay. Next up, we got Aerodactyl Archeops. I thought this just a rock flying would be super nice with Rillaboom to cover for bug types, fire types, and then just grab a Tailwind setter. Obviously would be nice. So I grabbed Archeops originally, and I traded for Aerodactyl late in the season. I actually did look at both of them because they were in the same tier, so I looked at both of them initially, and it came down to a couple decisions. Archeops had super nice power, right? So it has Head Smash, Meteor Beam. It gets some really good tools like Quick Guard and Endeavor too, and Knockoff. The problem is like its ability hurts it, which I mean can be an issue, especially if they have like priority moves like Bullet Punch or Sucker Punch or something like that, or Mach Punch, and like it's or Aqua Jet or Ice Shard. You know, lots of priority moves, and anything that's basically able to get you to half health before you attack is kind of unfortunate. But again, you have the Quick Guard for that, and with base 110 speed, you're faster than a lot of prankster. Actually, I think every prankster user, and um, as well as a lot of fake out users. So you can just quick guard that stuff, which is kind of nice. Um, but on the other side, you have Aerodactyl, who is 20 points base speed faster, so 110 to 130. It definitely has less attack, and it can't go special. Like, you get Meteor Beam, but it just has terrible special attack. But you do have Unnerve, which I feel like makes prep really awkward for the other team to use any sort of berry. Specifically, I thought it would be nice. Like, Aerodactyl's weak to water, obviously, and so, like, next to Rillaboom, people might want to run Rindo. So I thought it would make it really awkward for them people to run Rindo Berry against Rillaboom, which is just a nice way to counter it, basically, or to slow down the power. But Aerodactyl also gets Wide Guard, and it gets Weather. So Aerodactyl gets Sunny Day and Rain Dance, whereas Archeops does not. So I thought Sunny Day could be really helpful because I liked running Sunny Day with Magmortar. So yeah, it was difference between Quick Guard, Wide Guard, the speed difference, and then sacrificing some power for some ability utility. And I felt like my team, again, I felt like it needed more support in utility rather than power, so I made the switch. Also, I went the whole time with Aerodactyl thinking it got Head Smash because it gets the ability Rock Head, and it does not get Head Smash. Why does it get Rock Head and it doesn't get Head Smash? Why does Archeops get Head Smash and it doesn't have Rock Head, and Aerodactyl has Rock Head and doesn't get Head Smash? It makes zero sense. Zero. It gets Takedown and Double Edge. Okay, yeah, I'm not running that. I'm running Unnerve. I actually had plans to run Head Smash and Rock Head, but that is not a thing because Aerodactyl doesn't get it. So that was very odd to me. I just kind of assumed it got it. But yeah, overall, Aerodactyl is super nice. The 130 base speed actually did come into play a couple times. Like, there was a couple times when I'd want to... I feel like having your fastest mod as 110 is not super ideal. Because, like, my original thought was, like, I don't need a super, super fast mod because I've got Rillaboom and Comfey with, like, good priority. But it did actually matter, and there was a couple matchups when I really wanted to naturally outspeed my opponent, to force them to either invest in speed EVs or a Scarf or something like that. But yeah, if as fastest being base 110, like, you're not going to guarantee get that Tailwind off either. So I liked Aerodactyl for that. Aerodactyl was like got a little bit more bulk too, which is nice. Next, one of the other stars of my team, Wummer. The Wummer. And if you don't know, Wummer is the German name for Clawitzer. So Wummer and Golisopod. Wummer was so fun. I was so excited to try Wummer. I drafted Golisopod originally. It was a 2-minute draft timer, so you didn't have a lot of time to think about what your picks were necessarily. But I thought Golisopod could be fun to try in this format because its ability is kind of smelly in max format, I feel like. But in this format, it could be maybe kind of useful and easier to play around. But regardless, I realized after looking at my team, I was like, I have way too many physical attackers. Like, I don't need another one. So I was like, I'm gonna get a special attacker, and I didn't want my water type to be neutral to fire, so that I could switch in my water type for Rillaboom as like a defensive switch in. Whereas if you're using a fire move in a Rillaboom, I switch in my water type and it's just neutral damage. Like, that's gonna be annoying. And also it wouldn't be weak to fire or flying either. That would be annoying because you're naturally gonna want to bring flying types against Rillaboom, obviously. But Wummer fit perfectly with the team, and without legends, like, obviously the power level's a little bit lower, and like with its ability, it becomes so strong. You essentially have Stab, Dark with Dark Pulse, Dragon Pulse, Water Pulse, Aura Sphere, and Terrain Pulse. So you essentially have Stab, Dark Dragon, Water Fighting, and like any terrain. So I thought that would also mesh well with Rillaboom because like Clawitzer, right? Water type water types can usually wall each other well because they usually don't get a grass move. But with if I set up the terrain with Rillaboom, then I can throw off a huge grassy terrain pulse, and terrain pulse is insanely strong with Clawitzer. Oh my gosh, it's so strong because pulse moves are one. Terrain pulse automatically goes to 100 power in terrain. So in grassy terrain, it's 100 power plus the 30 grassy terrain boost. So it's essentially 130 power. And then you have a 1.5 boost from Mega Launcher. So it's essentially the equivalent of throwing off a Stab Draco Meteor from like a Hydreigon or something like that. Like that's the equivalent of Terrain Pulse Clawitzer. It's just disgusting. So anyways, the unique thing I thought about Clawitzer when I was trading for it was I have Pangoro with Dark and Fighting, which are really useful types, but the Stab might be really hard to use against certain like fairy types, or if people have fairy tech moves, and so that this Clawitzer was a little bit of insurance for that. So I could use Dark and Fighting moves without using without being 4 times weak to fairy. So I thought that was really really interesting too. Clawitzer was really just like a damage dealer. It really wasn't like any sort of supportive type, but it does have an awkward speed tier at 59. But overall, it worked really really well, and I was really I don't know, I had a lot of fun using it. So yeah. Next, we got Slowking Galar, the Trick Room setter of the team, and I just thought this looked like a great value pick, and looked like a fun mon to try. Slowking's stats are just phenomenal, and it was a tier below the Kanto Slowking. And if you look at Kanto Slowking compared to this Slowking, this Galar Slowking has actually 10. I think it has 10 higher base special attack actually, so it's actually a little bit better. And people might say the water typing is better than poison, but the poison is not bad because you're not weak to psychic because you're already psychic type, so you're only weak to ground. So you actually have one less weakness than Slowking Kanto, because Kanto Slowking's water type is weak to electric and grass. In addition to the other psychic weaknesses, Ghost and Dark and Bug. And Slowking Galar isn't weak to Bug either, so I think it has 2 less weaknesses. So yeah, it's just better. Like water has more resists in that sense. So it's going to be you could still argue that Kanto Slowking is better defensively because of its resistances, but in terms of being able to KO Slowking, I think Slowking Galar might be harder to KO. Regardless, it was really fun to use. I never found a great time to use Curious Medicine. I really wanted to use Curious Medicine because it's a unique ability and whatnot, but the main idea was maybe for Intimidates against Rillaboom, I could swap it in and cancel that, or use Overheat Magmortar and then swap in. But it would have been nice to have a better dragon type or a more offensive dragon type to switch in for Draco Meteor stuff. But regardless, you can just use Regenerator. It's a great ability. And then overall, it's a solid Trick Room setter. You can run Mental Herb and then run Bulky, and then you can survive a ton of hits. You don't necessarily need a Resist Berry. But it's got such a good move pool, too. Yawns, Iron Defense, Amnesia, plus Recovery with Slack Off, and so you can stall stuff out if you want. It's got tons of special coverage. Ice Beam, Flamethrower, Scald, Power Gem. It's got a bunch of really cool moves. And the main idea actually specifically with so once I grabbed Slowking, once I had that idea, I was like, well, what pairs well with Slowking? And so Slowking is obviously it's got weaknesses to ground, dark and ghost, and so I thought with its poison typing, it could pair well with Pangoro because it covers the fairy weakness of Pangoro, and then Pangoro with its dark and fighting stabs can take on the ghost and dark uh, types that might want to hit Slowking well. Obviously, he's still weak to ground, but is what it is. Um, and so, yeah, I just thought that would be a cool mix. Pangoro is a little bit faster, which is kind of awkward, in that 58 speed tier. Whereas, but that's still really nice under Trick Room. I mean, that still works plenty well. But yeah, Slowking Galar, when it was a tier below the other Slowking, hands down, I'm always picking Slowking Galar. So, next up, Pangoro. Speaking of Pangoro, really fun mod to try out. I think people will see the 4 times weakness to Fairy and get a little bit worried about it. And I will admit that, like, being scared of other teams running tech moves like Dazzling Gleam or Play Rough was really annoying. However, like, you can run AV and survive Dazzling Gleam hits. You won't survive Play Roughs probably, but yeah, you can survive Dazzling Gleam hits from non-stab Pokemon if you just run AV, which is nice. But it gets a lot of good coverage. It gets Iron Fist, or it gets Scrappy to not be intimidated. So great abilities. With Iron Fist though, if you're running like Thunder Punch or Ice Punch or Fire Punch or whatever, you're probably gonna need a boosting item to still pick up KOs because they're still not stab, which stab would be a 50% boost. So when I was doing calcs, you usually need a boosting item, and unfortunately, you maybe want to run a defensive item like Roselli or AV or Focus Sash something, so because of its 4 times weakness. So it is kind of it can be awkward to prep with, for sure. But I think it's got a lot of potential. I probably didn't use it as well as I could have. It's got great move pool and the power, really strong. The 58 is a little bit of awkward speed tier because you can't outspeed anything base 115 or above. So anything base 115 or above can guarantee outspeed you, and so that was really frustrating sometimes because one set I wanted to run was like a Scarf set with maybe like Close Combat, Darkest Lariat, Parting Shot, and one other move. Like I think the fact that it gets Parting Shot is really cool. Great for Scarf, but it was just it was just hard to run if they had a mon faster than 115 base speed that can hit it well. Which a lot of flying types are pretty fast, so they can obviously hit Pangoro well as well. One thing that I thought was cool though is like base 58 doesn't outspeed or underspeed base 30s in Trick Room, which is kind of the common Trick Room speed tier. But it does get Stab Fling with Iron Ball, and that becomes a 130 base move, dark move. So like you can run Iron Ball just to want to underspeed stuff, but then you can also run Fling as a 130 base dark move because that's the strongest stab physical dark move that you can have. It's much stronger than Darkest Lariat at 85 base power. So that's definitely an option to run, especially if you're going to run it in Trick Room, which I had planned to, although I don't know that I really did. Maybe once. So yeah, so I think that's a really cool option as well. Next up, Glurk. This was probably easily the most disappointing Pokemon on my team. Basically, did nothing for me all season. Yeah, and I don't know if it was my play style or prep. I just couldn't find a good consistent role for Glurk when I was making teams. I can't quite put my finger on it, but yeah, it just never looked like a solid bring. And the few times I brought it, it didn't do much. So I think instead of Glurk, I would have preferred another defensive type tool. Or again, since this is one of those 55 base speed mons, in that 50 to 60 range, because I had a couple of those. It's fine to have, maybe 2 or 3, but I think I had 4 of them. but yeah, I think Glurk having like a defensive tool or like another Trick Room mon. I considered trading it for the Sandcastle. Gosh, I can't even remember its name. Palisand. I considered trading it for that because that way I still have a Ghost type, still have a Ground type, and it's super slow, so it works a little bit better in Trick Room. So that was another option. But yeah, main role was just to be kind of a fast Earthquake user under Arrow that can't be faked out. With its Ghost type. EQ is bad with Boom. Obviously, I talked about that earlier, and you share. The awkward thing about running Arrow and Glurk is that they share water and ice weaknesses, so that's also kind of an awkward lead because most teams have a good water type, I would say. Scarf No Guard, strong moves. Like, I mean, it was strong, and I did use it one time, and it's definitely interesting. But I feel like a lot of times when I was doing calcs and in practice actually too is like it wasn't picking up the crucial KOs with without a boosting item. And if you're scarfing, you're not using a boosting item. But again, with scarf, you can't even outspeed base 108 or above. So again, you have those base 108 or above mons, base speed. They can just, if they go max speed, they can just rock Glurk. So yeah, kind of an awkward typing to use, honestly. I felt like, but again, maybe it just could have been my place out or something. But yeah, did not enjoy Glurk. I think it could be okay, but just me personally, I don't know, not a huge fan. Magnazone. Magnazone, on the other hand, was very fun to play with. I really enjoyed Magnazone. It's got three really great abilities. I don't know that I ever used Analytic, but I think I might have used Magnet Pull one time because that can actually be really nice for positioning. It's trapping in other steel types, which usually can't do much to Magnazone. And then Sturdy is super super nice because it's just safe. It's a free focus ash, but you can also run pinch berries very safely. Like the boosted special attack or speed one or Q-step or something like that. You can run any of those pinch berries pretty safely, and you can just run Sturdy. And instead of protect, if you get chipped, you can just run endure, which you can have this, does the same effect, and you can still get your pinch berry. It's just kind of insurance that way. But with such high defense already, and like, it gets iron defense and magnet rise, which just totally removes that ground weakness. Like, I didn't nearly have the same 4 times weakness concerns as I did with Pangoro. I ran magnet rise a couple of times, and actually not running it in my last game, I think, is what lost me the set, unfortunately. But also in that set, I ran my favorite Magnazone set, which I had been waiting to run all season, which was Blunder Policy Zap Cannon with Electroweb for speed control after that. So, like, just run max speed Magnazone, throw off a Zap Cannon. If it hits, amazing. Something's probably dead. And if not, it's paralyzed, and you get speed control that way. But if you miss, which, 50-50 shot, you're now going to be the fastest mon on the field, most likely, unless they're scarfed or something. Fastest mon on the field, and you can just throw off Electrowebs and help your team, outspeed everything. So that was, oh man, that was such a fun set that I was waiting to run, and it almost worked out, but I stupidly switched Magnet Rise for Protect. Yeah, that was unfortunate. But Magnazone, the weird thing is, like, it doesn't have it has low move typing versatility, so like you're really going to be running steel electric moves and then like maybe a support move and protect or something like that. But like it still feels like, in terms of its item versatility, ability versatility, and the different types of electric moves you can run. You can run pivoting volt switch, you can run speed control Electroweb, you can run thunderbolt. So there are like, or you can run steel beam and flash cannon, or you can go iron defense body press too. That's another cool set that Magnazone can run. So like, there's a lot of different sets you can run. I think it gets both screens too, which is interesting. So yeah, really really enjoyed Magnazone. Tons of fun. Magmortar, it was really strong, but it sort of felt linear like Rillaboom. And I don't know, again, if this was like a team comp type of thing that forced me to play it linearly, but so many times when I was like, okay, can I use Magmortar in this matchup? What am I going to run? Okay, let's see. A fire move, obviously. I either want spread for Heat Wave or Flamethrower for consistent damage or Overheat. And then, Protect is always nice unless I'm Scarfing. And then, okay, well, if they have a Water type. Well, Thunderbolt's always good consistent damage into a Water type then. And then, so just those three moves. And usually, I would actually have two fire moves, right? So I could run, like, Mystical Fire and Overheat. Or I could run, like, Overheat and Heat Wave. Or Mystical Fire and Heat Wave. Or, like there's just a lot of different combinations of fire moves you might want to run for different situations. But then, yeah, that kind of became the sort of standard for Magmortar. And, like, it's really nice with Life Orb because you can get a lot of KOs. And that's what I did is I would, I could run it with Life Orb, and then, like, you run Heat Wave, or you can run a faster Sunsetter. So, like, that was one of the reasons I picked up Aerodactyl. Aerodactyl gets Sunny Day. Kangaskhan's faster, and Comfey's faster, and they both get Sunny Day. So running Sun. So ironically, my team sort of turned into a Sun team. I ran that a couple games. A Sun team with Rillaboom. So yeah, I would run Sunny Day, and then once you run Sunny Day, it removes that water weakness from Magmortar. So then you're really only worried about rock or ground, which rock or ground types are always scared of Rillaboom too. Well, I guess same with water, but regardless, yeah, that it was just if you run Life Orb Overheat, you can pick up so many KOs. Like that you would not otherwise, and it's just so strong. And like if something doesn't resist it, oh man, it's just gone usually. And that's the problem is like I wanted to run different sets like supportive maybe like with Wisp or something like that, but it's like it has such a high special attack. Why would I not utilize it and just get this KO, or nearly KO it maybe or something like that? Why would I set a Wisp? So that was also tough. Grassy Seed also helped to patch its low defense. I think I used that maybe once, but it was kind of an idea. Is like, oh, Magmortar's kind of awkward. Like it's got such a low defense stat, but it's like I got Grassy Terrain, so I might as well run Grassy Seed on it. Kangaskhan was very strong. It was about as good as I expected. Like Kangaskhan pretty much it did what I thought it would do, and it did it well, and I had fun using it, and I feel like there wasn't too much to say. I mean, like, so I know Fake Out Last Resort's a really common move set with Kangaskhan, and I did bring it 1 week, actually, only 1 week. Like, it's just always something the opponent has to consider, and, like, it did do work the one time I brought it. But it's always something the opponent has to consider, which I think is why Kangaskhan is so cool. And Inner Focus and Scrappy are two really good abilities, of course. So loved having that. I actually generally use it as more of a fast support. Fake Out, Helping Hand, Sunny Day, Icy Wind, Fling. So, just doing it for speed control or general board position. And I think it did well there. Because I think there are definitely ways to counter the Fake Out Last Resort stuff. And, like, again, the rest of my team had enough damage, which I think is why Kangaskhan sort of filled this more supportive role where it might not always play that way on teams. But it was also really cool to have multiple Fake Out mons. I really enjoyed that. Usually I just have like one. So having multiple options for that, depending on the matchup, was nice. And they didn't have any shared weaknesses. And last but not least, we have Alteria. So Alteria was super fun to use. I've been waiting to try this mon out. I don't think it was the best on my team. I mean, it worked decently well, but I think specifically for my team, it didn't work the best. I think it wasn't necessarily ideal to double up on the flying type. But I did enjoy having it as a more supportive tool that could also be like a defensive switch-in. Because my team needed defensive switch-ins. And again, it was a great endgame win con. With Roost, you have consistent, healing, and you can do Breaking Swipe. It also gets Cotton Guard. So physically, it's got really, really good options. The problem is, and it's also got Tailwind and Cloud9, which is really, really cool. The problem is, physically, like it can take hits. So on the special side, it can't boost its special defense, and you're probably going to be taking like special moves like Ice Beam, Blizzard, Icy Wind. Those are common, like super common in draft. So, and with the 4x weakness, it's hard to run it effectively there. The other thing about Cloud9 is that I feel like it's probably one of the worst Cloud9 users, besides against Sun. And the reason being is like with its typing, water mons always have ice moves. Hail modes are obviously going to destroy you, and sand modes can just smack you with rock. Now, the one time I did actually use it against a rock team, but that was specifically because the sand rush user is Dracozolt, which is dragon type, and I can smack it with a Draco Meteor or something. Although I was just throwing off breaking swipes, which were super effective and lowered the attack, which was nice against the sand mode. But generally, I feel like it's really only going to be super effective against a sun mode, in terms of just that Cloud9. But Natural Cure isn't a bad ability either. But also my team, like with Rillaboom and Glurk, and like Aerodactyl, you're probably gonna want to run ice moves, and so it's probably better on a team that wasn't so ice weak already. So, and yeah, I don't know. Overall, I really enjoyed its move pool and what it can do. I think Fire Spin on it is really really cool because of trapping, and you can trap stuff in with lowered attack stats from the breaking swipes, and so that was really really cool as well. And then if they want to switch in something, they they're gonna switch into a breaking swipe, or they can't because of the Fire Spin. And then you can just roost and stall them out. So that was, I don't know, that was really fun to try that out. There was something I had kind of theory crafted with Alteria before I drafted it, and it worked out. So it was that was fun to use. But yeah, overall, had a really fun season, and yeah, all these mons were so fun to try. I really enjoyed, except Glurk, but I really enjoyed using them, and I think with a few tweaks, this could have been a really really solid team. But yeah, I feel like it was like an 8.5 out of 10. Like it was almost there. I mean, obviously, like, you know, Rillaboom and Comfey actually carried it pretty well, but yeah, there's definitely some things I could have fixed with it. But yeah, that's my VBA team overview. Let me know what you think, and yeah, we'll see you next time. Peace.